This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you very much. Welcome to the North Front Range and Air Quality Planning Council meeting for February 1. I'd like to thank LaSalle for having us. Thank you, very good food, appreciate it. With that, if you would join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. We'll start with the public comment, if any. Anybody from the public in the room? Seeing none, we'll move on to the acceptance of the meeting agenda. Hopefully you had a chance to look at the agenda. If there's any comments, questions, deletions, additions, now would be the time to talk about it. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for acceptance.
So moved.
Second.
All right, super. Next is item number 2, approval of minutes. Hopefully you've had a chance to take a look at that. Any disagreements, additions, deletions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
The only thing I would, it looks like perhaps the attendees in the minutes are maybe not correct. I did attend. I'm not sure if I've been officially accepted onto the board.
You are.
So I was at least in attendance there. Would like the record to show that, please.
We'll put that in these minutes, right?
Yeah, well, we'll put them on the ones that we modified.
Oh, okay. All right.
We better go to the video on that.
Who's got the flag, right?
Throw the record.
Mr. Chair, I move we accept the minutes as amended.
Thank you. Hearing the second.
Over here. Mark Clerk.
Oh, Mark, okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Approval of minutes are done. I will open up the lead planning agency for air quality agenda. Item number 3 on the agenda is Air Pollution Control Division. That's a written report on page 14. Then there's the Regional Air Quality Council. That is a handout. And number 5, North Front Range Air Quality Program updates. We have Dina online. All right, Dina, take it away.
Hi there, can you hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. All right, there wasn't a whole lot to report on in terms of air quality happenings in January. The RAC let their request for proposal out, accepting bids from modeling contractors to carry out modeling, including that's needed for attainment demonstrations and SIPs. The proposal deadline is February 23rd, and so we should know more about that very soon. The RFP does request contractors to consider using a better approach or a more robust approach to addressing background ozone, and that was done at the suggestion of the North Front Range NPO staff. Actually, Suzette made that suggestion. In addition to that, we saw a bill introduced by Senator Kirkmeyer regarding air quality ozone levels. So it really hits a couple of topics related to like high emitter vehicle programs and creates some incentives for small electric powered garden equipment, that kind of thing. So we're gonna watch that one as well as any others that are that will come out during the session. We also saw that a couple of things came out from EPA that might help us in terms of evaluating monitored air quality data and whether or not exceptional events, I don't know if you've heard that term before, I know you have, but those are terms that are used potentially to understand how like natural events like dust storms and wildfires and that kind of thing affect the monitored data that we got during the same time frame. So EPA came out with some new guidelines some new tools that are going to be helpful from what we understand in assessing exceptional events. And then there were a couple of actions from EPA in terms of, kind of streamlining some efforts when it's related to funding electric vehicle charging stations. They set a categorical exemption under NEPA, so that should help streamline kind of the process and really get at like clean school buses and funding related to that program as well. Upcoming meetings, the RAC board meeting tomorrow has been canceled. There is a Air Quality Control Commission meeting in February. That's where they're going to pick back up the lawn and garden equipment rulemaking hearing. Some draft documents came out just in the past couple of days related to that. And so I can drop in the chat as soon as I'm done talking the link where you might be able to find that. And that's really it for January. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Any questions for Dina? Seeing none. Dina, thank you very much.
There might be a hand raised by.
Oh,
Commissioner Stevens? Yes, Commissioner Stevens.
Commissioner Stevens, sorry, we couldn't find your hand. You're on mute. Uh-oh, might be us.
Are people online able to hear Commissioner Stevens?
No.
Oh, okay. So.
All right, sorry, Commissioner. Hang on to that thought. We can come back to it. She's gone. She's going to reboot.
I would say, right, you mind if I interject some
Yes.
code? So one of the things that Dina was talking about as far as the background ozone, what essentially this was is a paper that Dina provided to me that I forwarded on to the RAC. And right now in our ozone non-attainment area, the RAC is saying we're about 50 parts per billion background ozone, and our standard is 70 and 75. But what we're thinking is that they're only using one model to come up with that background ozone number. And the proposal that Dina had was to have several different models run, and so they sort of cancel out each other's errors, if you will. And we think that that is potentially going to show that background ozone being higher than the 50 parts per billion. So that's what we're thinking may happen with this new round on the model. So, and I know Commissioner Stevens looks like she's back online.
All right, Commissioner, we see you.
Can't hear me though?
Oh, no, yeah. Bingo.
No?
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So my question for Dina was about Dina, you can hear me too, right?
Yes.
Okay. My question was about the legislation that was proposed by Senator Kirkmeyer. In it, it talked about the NAPME being the administrator maybe of those funds. Do you know, is there funding that comes along with those proposals from her?
I'm sorry, I don't know, but I can while we're talking, I can go pull up the fiscal note and take a quick look at that and respond.
Okay, because I didn't know if that was meant to be funded out of funds that are already in place, or if there was new funding to come with that. So that was my question. Yeah,
All right,
I
I will
mean,
take a look at that and drop my answer into the chat if that's okay.
that's great. Thank you very much.
All right. Anything further for Dina? All right. Thanks again, Dina. And we'll close the air quality agenda and open up the planning organization agenda. First up is number 6, report of the chair. I hate to bring this subject up, but as you all know, Suzette's leaving us eventually.
She's been talking about it for a while.
Yeah, at least 2 years we've been talking about it, but I think the date's coming. We set a date for 7/1. for the new hire and 8/1 for your departure with a month. This is all planning, right? We hope we pull this off, that there's a month in between for some on-the-job kind of training. We're going to approach this through two avenues. The executive committee, which is the chair, vice chair, and past chair, will be handling the recruitment, the initial interviews, the screening, whittling down of resumes, et cetera. And then we want to have all of the commissioners involved when we get to the final selection process. So I want everyone to be involved and have their shot. So hopefully we can pull that off. There's another parallel avenue that we have to do, and that's the HR stuff, which is paperwork and job descriptions and updating manuals and things like that. Our past chair, Scott, you're going to handle that duty. You'll put a team together as you see as you see that you want to do it. Number of people, etc. You got 5 people.
5 people
to get involved. So we'll leave that in your capable hands. Appreciate that. Any questions on that? Okay, let's go to the executive director report.
Okay, so I do have a couple of items. The first one is that the 2024 Safe Routes to School National Conference will be in Fort Collins this year in October, on October 22nd to the 24th. NPO staff is really heavily involved in helping to pull that conference off and bring it to Fort Collins. So they're currently working on session proposals, and they've expressed interest in having mobile workshops in other communities in the region. So if any of you have thoughts, ideas, suggestions, please let us know. And we're looking at around 500 participants that will be in this conference. And so we really, it's being held in Fort Collins, but we really want to showcase the region. So just let Jerome Rouser, who's in the audience, he is heading that. So just let me know, and I can pass on any information to him if you have items that you think would be good for that. The second piece is the legislative update, and I think Dina talked a little bit about one of them, but I'm just going to go through what we've got, and I'm assuming that most of you probably know more about these legislative reports than maybe I do. So the first one is House Bill 241012, and this is the Front Range Passenger Rail District efficacy, and this is really talking about doing some changes within the legislative context to clean some things up. I think we heard that last month when Andy Carsian was presenting the things that they're cleaning up, and this is in your handouts, by the way, if you're interested in that. They're talking about the provide an annual update on district staff to the Transportation Commission, the I-70 Coalition or any successor entity, eliminate the requirement that the board of director appointments by NPOs be confirmed by the Senate, so they will no longer need to be confirmed by the Senate, and then broad powers by a majority vote or quorum, of directors rather than a majority vote of a quorum, and the board has discretion to delegate its power to enter contracts and things like that. So it looks like it is going to the Transportation, Housing, and Local Government discussion on the 6th. So, and I think it would be make it easier on us to do our NPO appointments as we discussed in some detail last month. The next bill is House Bill 24-1030, and that's the railroad safety requirements. And this is really concerning lengths of trains that must not exceed 8,500 feet. I think this is a safety issue, predominantly, I think, for emergency responders, that they don't, not talking about blocking intersections, things like that. This is railroads must operate, maintain, and report location on the wayside. A train must not obstruct a public crossing for longer than 10 minutes. Any crew members of a train may report the crew members designated union representatives for a safety violation. Create the Front Range Passenger Rail District Maintenance and Safety Fund. The bottom line is the impact is railroad tracks run through our communities throughout the region, which have been impacted by trains. Fort Collins, Lebanon, and Berthoud are located along the potential path of the Front Range Passenger Rail that could benefit from the fund. And then fire departments in the region would benefit from training and dealing with railroad and railroad safety. Then jumping to Senate bills, Senate Bill 24032 is the method to increase the use of transit. And we're talking about creating a statewide transit pass so that we have many transit organizations across the state. This would be a pass that would serve for all of the transit agencies. And the proposal is the proposal would be presented by July 1 of 2026, implementing the pass by January 1 of 2028. There's the Ozone Season Transit Grant Program, and this relocates the Ozone Season Transit Grant Program from CDOT to the Colorado Energy Office. Requires the state treasurer to transfer $7 million of the Ozone Season Grant Fund on July 1 of 24 to July 1 of each year thereafter. They have a youth fare free transit program and an income tax credit for the purchase of a transit pass. This provides additional funding for transit agencies, and it could benefit free ride with ID programs at Fort Collins, Loveland, and Greeley. And the income tax credit could be promoted as part of our TMO programming. And then the Vulnerable Road User Protection Enterprise, which is Senate Bill 24036. This is concerning the creation of an enterprise to provide infrastructure improvements that protect vulnerable road users. So this is a funding for transportation system improvements that is data-driven. The grant will be between $250,000 and $2.5 million, no local match requirement. The grants for grants under $1 million, 20% on grants over $1 million to 2.5. Grants must be maybe used as local match for federal funds. And this is really, this funding, this is assessed on the weight of your vehicle, so it would be during vehicle registration. And there is that chart, as you can see, about how much the fee would be based on the weight of your vehicle. And this helps address rising crash, included bicycle and pedestrians, and the Planning Council had stated safety as a priority and funding can be limited. And then the last one, I think this is the one that Dina touched on as well, and this is the air quality ozone levels. This is, she said, Mark Kirkmeyer is the one that is sponsoring this bill. It's a high emitter program that creates $850 vouchers to bring qualified vehicles that have been unsuccessfully repaired to meet emissions requirements within the non-attainment area into compliance. This has been a program that has been around off and on for a long time, but if you're a part of the AIR program and you take your car in and it does not pass emissions, you have an $850 cap on how much you would spend to get that car back into compliance. But if you're a low income household, that's sort of you're really stretched for dollars, that $850 may be more than you can do to get your car repaired. So this would be setting aside some money for that kind of a fund, so that people that qualify for that funding will be able to get their car repaired and bring it back into compliance with emissions. And there's also the garden rebate program, led to increase the use of small electric motors, clean fuel enterprise. This expands programs to include light duty trucks. And I think that is probably about it. It does say it is administered by NAPME in coordination with the Department of Revenue contractors, but that's all I know. So this doesn't have a lot of context to the earlier discussion. So that's all I have as far as the legislative update.
Great. Any questions for Suzette?
I have a question.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Okay. Is that with the fare reductions or no fare for students under 18, is that available to all transit authorities throughout the state? Because I thought maybe in your notes I saw that it was just RTD and someone else.
Yeah, you're correct. It says it provides grants to RTD and CASTA, which is the Colorado Association of Transit Agencies. I think if I got that acronym correct. They would provide a fare-free year-round transit service for individuals who are 19 years and younger.
Okay.
Yes.
Do all transit groups belong to CAST?
Belong to CAST. Go ahead.
I don't know the answer about all of them. I believe all of the ones in our region do belong to CASTA, but the way that it worked with the ozone program was that RTD worked directly with CDOT, and CASTA worked with CDOT on behalf of local agencies. So it's just who is the state actually contracting with. So CASTA is just contracting with the state, and then CASTA will work with the local transit agencies that are in RTD.
Okay, that helps. Yeah, I didn't understand if everybody was eligible, but it sounds like they would be. If you're not an RTD, that you would get it through the CASTA group. Thank you.
Any other questions? Nothing online, right? Nope. All right, thank you, Suzette. This is where we pick up speed. All the rest of the reports are written reports. TAC being on page 16. Mobility is a handout. Finance is on page 17. And Q4 2023 tip modifications are on page 18. CDOT inactive report is on page 19. Any questions before I move on to the consent agenda? Seeing none. Number 13, this is Suzette, the Articles Association Amendment. I think she passed that out, right? Yep. Go ahead.
On consent, I'm not going to present anything unless you would like me to.
Oh, does anybody want to pull this off consent? Seeing none, all right, it'd be consented upon.
I mean, there's still can be questions.
Oh, that's right, we got to vote on the whole agenda. Okay, all right. All right. Well, let's entertain a motion first then.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All right, any further questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
nays? All right, clean sweep. Number 14, we'll move on to action items. Anna Rose, you're up first.
Yes. At the January Planning Council meeting, the Planning Council adopted Resolution 2024-01 that had a couple of inaccurate number amounts listed in the resolution. So this action item is correcting that resolution to show the correct funding amounts for the two projects that were listed. The City of Greeley 9th and 10th Street Mobility Improvements Project and the Town of Windsor Crossroads in Colorado Intersection Improvements Project.
Did the amounts go up or down? What?
The amounts went down, but it's just correcting to what was agreed on. They just had the incorrect amounts listed in the resolution. So the award that the agencies were anticipating is not changing.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move we approve, I move we approve revised resolution number 2024-01.
Thank you.
Second.
All right.
I will note that this sample resolution here's got the wrong date. It's got the 2nd of February. I don't know if that's.
Oh.
Just pointing out the.
I've had some of these meetings that drug into the next day. Paul.
We might be on track. Just throwing that up.
All right, one more time, any more questions for Anna Rose? Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Perfect. Number 15, Front Range Passenger Rail District Representative, Suzette.
Yep, so this is the resolution that I passed out. It was our late resolution that I wanted to make sure everybody had in front of them. So we had quite a discussion last month about our Front Range Passenger Rail representatives, which is Councilmember Olson and Mayor Korsbeck. So we, when we had initially made the appointments, we did not designate which one was a 2-year term and which one was a 4-year term. And there is that requirement that we do that. So after some conversation last month, the agreement is that, and I put this in, well, that's the article, sorry, wrong resolution, I'm on 2403. The agreement is that Mayor Korsbeck with the town of Berthoud would be serve from the 2024 to 2028 term, and that Councilmember Olson would serve with the 2022 to 2026 term. And we all internally talked about once we go to the ballot, or if there's a ballot initiative in November, that this council would come back and talk about the representatives at that point. But this is going to be sent down to Front Range Passenger Rail District, so they will know the terms and who's on what terms. So every 2 years, we just appoint somebody.
Do we need to revisit the plan of revisiting the representation in November? Everyone still okay with that? All right, that'd be a good time to do it. All right. You're done, right?
The resolution.
Yeah. Anybody got that open?
Mr. Chair, move we approve resolution number 2024-03.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? All right, that is resolved. Next is transport program projects. Joshua Ma, I believe he's online.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello? Oh, hi.
Yes.
Good evening. Thank you for your time today. My name is Joshua Ma. I'm the grants administrator for the City of Fort Collins Transport. I'm here to present our federal fiscal year 2024 program of projects and seek approval by the Planning Council. The City of Fort Collins is a designated recipient of FTA Section 5307, 5310, and 5339 funding for the Fort Collins Transportation Management Area, also known as the TMA, which includes Transport, City of Loveland Transit, Berthoud Area Transportation Service, and the North Front Range Metropolitan Planning Organization. As the designated recipient of this TMA, Transport is responsible for allocating funds, coordinating public notification and participation, and incorporation into transportation improvement program, or the TIP. These are formula funds that are not competitive but awarded based on a formula system using variables such as operating expenses, revenue miles, passenger miles, and population. Each of these formula funding programs can only be used for specific purposes, which are described on page 31 of your packets. 5307 is used for operating expenses, preventative maintenance, security projects, planning and capital projects. Section 5310 for capital and operating projects to enhance mobility for seniors and individuals with disabilities, and 5339 funds can be used for capital projects to replace, rehabilitate, and purchase buses and bus facilities. Our funding exchange process begins when the FTA releases apportionments for the fiscal year. We use an allocation calculator that follows the same formula that FTA uses to determine allocations. In 2020, Loveland became a direct recipient of federal funds and are required to adhere to all federal requirements. At the request of our partners, Fort Collins retains a percentage of their funding allocation, and we swap federal funds and pay the agencies using local funds. This allows agencies to spend their funds to best meet their business needs, free from federal oversight and regulations. You can find the proposed program of projects on your screen now. And the program of projects includes brief project descriptions along with the federal and local share for each project. When we begin the program of project process, we estimate our funding levels based on last year's apportionments minus Colt's share, which is the City of Loveland. FTA has yet to release 2024 apportionments, but once they're announced, final dollar amounts may change, but the identified projects will remain the same. Transport placed a public notice about our program projects in the Coloradoan that included information about a public meeting that we held on December 12th here at the Downtown Transit Center. We also posted that information on our website weeks prior to the meeting. We received no negative feedback or concerns from the public regarding our projects. And this item was also discussed at the January 17th Technical Advisory Committee meeting and was recommended for approval. At this time, Transport formally requests approval of our program of projects for 2024. Any questions?
Questions for Joshua? You don't see any. That being the case, this is resolution 2024-04 on page 28. I'll entertain that motion. Somebody wants to read it? Or I'll read it. I'll read it. I'll entertain a motion revising the fiscal year 2024-2027 Transportation Improvement Program regarding FTA 5307, 5310, 5339, Fort Collins, Loveland, Berthoud Transportation Management Area, TMA, Program of Projects for fiscal year 24. Okay.
Am I seconding that, or am I going, first
I'm entertaining the motion.
I'll make the motion.
So move.
I'll second.
There we go. Popped all over the second. All right. Any further questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
All right. Thank you very much. Number 17, 2020-2024 targets for safety. Anna Rose.
Thank you. At the January Planning Council meeting, Becky presented the options for setting the safety performance measure targets for 2020 to 2024. As a reminder, these targets are required by FHWA to be set annually, and they have to be data-driven targets. For the past 6 performance periods, the NFRMPO has set targets by supporting the statewide targets. But given some of the different trends that we're seeing and to better reflect the status of safety in the North Front Range, we had recommended setting MPO-specific targets for this round, for this performance period, which are shown on the screen here, along with the statewide targets from CDOT that they set earlier last year. The targets are due to CDOT at the end of this month, and I will take any questions.
Any questions for Anna Rose? Looks like we're all scot-free. This is a resolution number 2024-05. We found on actually page 37. I will entertain a motion. Let's see, 2024-05 of the North Front Range Transportation Air Quality Planning Council to set regional targets for the 2020-2024 safety performance measure.
So moved.
Second. You get one?
Yeah, it was Mark. Who was the second?
Troy. All right, any further discussion? Super. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays?
Aye.
Did I hear somebody?
That's because she said
I
aye.
don't hear Johnny.
She's got it delayed.
Johnny on there? I don't hear.
I haven't heard Johnny at all.
Been saying aye too, I just been on mute.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. Oh.
All right, number 18 under.
It's
action
hard to
items.
get your, I will say it's hard to unmute in time to be able to say aye sometimes.
Oh, that's the.
I second that.
We'll slow down. Sorry about that.
Sounds like they're having their own meeting.
Yeah. All right, number 18, January TIP amendment. That is a resolution. That again is Anna Rose.
Thank you. The January 2024 amendment to the fiscal year 2024 to 2027 TIP includes 10 revisions based on the funding awarded through the 2023 CULP projects. So this is adding 10 new projects to the TIP. The projects that were existing projects awarded funding were modified into the TIP with the January TIP modification. The January 2024 TIP amendment went out for public comment on January 16th. That public comment will close on February 15th, and approval by Planning Council is contingent on no negative public comments being received before that public comment period ends. There was an equity analysis that was included for all the new location-specific projects, which included all of the information provided by project sponsors during the call for projects process. I will now open it up for any questions about the January TIP amendment.
Any questions for Anna Rose? Any discussion? All right. This is again a resolution 2024-06. It's on page 55 of the packet. I will entertain a motion to approve the January 2024 amendment to the fiscal year 2024-2027 Transportation Improvement Program.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. For Commissioner Stevens' sake, I'll go real slow. No.
Aye.
Now you're
Aye.
ahead.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right, thank you. Let's move on to discussion items. Number 19, Active Transportation Plan, ATP update. That's Jerome.
Hello. So we're gonna wait for it to pop up. Spoiler, to look at that. All right, there we go. Welcome to Active Transportation Plan. It says kickoff, but we've been working on it for a few months, but it's a kickoff for y'all. So just to get on the same terms, what is active transportation? So this is from the 2021 Regional Active Transportation Plan, which is our current plan. And it is human-powered and human-scaled modes of transportation, pedestrian, walking or rolling, bicycle, scooters, skateboard, etc. This also includes e-bikes, e-scooters, and things of that nature. So what is the Active Transportation Plan? So it is an update on our shared regional vision for active transportation, and it's also to serve as a guidance to our local communities on active transportation related things. It can also assist with leveraging funding for communities as they apply for funding for active transportation projects. So just a little bit of background, the history of active transportation planning at the NPO. Our first active transportation plan was the 2013 Regional Bicycle Plan. In said plan, it consolidated a summary of our existing bicycle data and created 12 corridors to build out. I'll let you all know those are the same 12 corridors that we have today with minor updates in each planning process. This plan provided tools to support local bicycle planning and accommodations. And this plan kind of served as the NPO's baseline plan that we built upon on each update. So our second iteration of the plan was the 2016 non-motorized plan, and this expanded on the 2013 regional bicycle plan, but also included pedestrian travel. So we started with looking at just bicycles, then we expanded to bike and ped. So then our current plan compiled all of that and added more detail, especially in our regional active transportation corridors. So speaking of said corridors, I just want to give a little bit of a reminder what those corridors are and provide a little bit of information. So those are the same 12 corridors from the original 2013 regional bicycle, and they really have intentions for multiple uses. So they can be used for commuting, they can be used for safe routes to school, they can also be used for recreation. When these trails were planned, they were planned to be as useful and versatile as possible to get people where they need to go. And this network consists of facilities, so those can be shared use paths or a separate trail, like the Poudre River Trail, Great Western Trail, trails of that nature. It can be roadway or on-road facilities, that could be bike lanes or bikeable shoulders, or it can be a mix of both. So here, and I'm sorry, this is a surprise vision test because it is a little small, but here I have two maps to the left. Those are our corridors, and it is a little out of date in terms of construction. We have construction, and this will be updated as we update the plan. And then on the right, that is a map of the corridors by their facilities. So as you can see, most of the corridors are separated, but we do have a good mix of that are combined, and then some that are completely separate. Okay.
1 second, we'll clear the channel.
It's the caller, I think. Caller 01.
With any luck, that was a toilet.
Well, let's see if we got it.
Yeah, let's hold.
Go ahead, Jerome.
All right. So as a result of the 2022 public involvement plan that was adopted prior to the adoption of the 2050 Regional Transportation Plan,
one of the things in that plan is that the NPO staff will prepare a outreach strategy prior to each plan that we do. So for the outreach strategy for this particular plan, we determined 4 outreach strategies. So the first phase that we are currently in is goals and problem statement. And that's really looking at what is the need, is spreading the word on the planning efforts and speaking with our stakeholders. And it is also a way to kind of get ideas and start the planning process. The second phase is existing condition and active transportation facilities update. We are concurrently in this phase as well, and that's when we really start to look into the data. So look at the data that we have, begin requesting data from our local communities, and really trying to update our active transportation facilities data, which we are continuously trying to catch up with all of the development in the region. So just as a reminder, active transportation facilities can include trails, bike lanes, shared use paths, sidewalks, pretty much anywhere where one could feasibly walk or ride. And with so much development in the region, it's been rather difficult to keep up on that. So one thing we'll be looking at this plan, and we've already had discussions with stakeholders, is how can we keep up with that data better? Phase 3 is looking at our regional active transportation plan, regional active transportation corridor visioning. And we did do visioning for the 2050 regional transportation plan, but the visioning in this plan will be much more detailed. We go at a much more molecular level, and this will be an opportunity to update those corridors as needed. And then our final phase, we close in the feedback loop. So that is be responding to public comment that we receive, finishing up the plan, and the adoption process. So this is a visual of how we're doing our phasing for this plan, and we are anticipating adoption in early 2025, so we're about a year out. And as you can see, we're currently in phases 1 and 2. So in terms of stakeholders we have identified, this list is not exhaustive. We have added more since I made this list, but that includes our Technical Advisory Committee, our Community Advisory Committee, the Northern Colorado Bike and Ped Collaborative, also known as NOCO Bike and Ped, our mobility committees, local transportation advisory boards, chambers of commerce, areas, agencies on aging, that's a tongue twister, environmental agencies, universities, youth advisory boards, and local bicycle advisory boards. So these are some of the outreach strategies that we have identified in our outreach strategy document prior to beginning this planning process. So that includes our project website, which we can see here on the right. We will be developing an active transportation survey that we will begin to we will begin to administer here soon. Partner presentations, including video recordings, and we will put those recordings on this webpage using social media, community conversations. For this plan, we're looking to also do corridor-based conversations. So have all communities on a particular corridor, such as Powder River Trail, Great Western Trail, US 34 Trail, things of that nature, to discuss that on specific trail to assist with visioning, and then discussion at our summer outreach events. So we have developed a steering committee, and the goal is to meet at least once per phase. We already did meet on December 18th. It was virtual, but we do have the option for future meetings to have it hybrid, depending on what we're talking about, of course. And we're looking for a mix of large community representation, small community representation, and other key stakeholders. And I will say the first steering committee meeting went very well, and we got some very good feedback to help us develop the plan and continue to move forward. So I will very quickly go through some of the ideas that we've had and then give you all an opportunity to give feedback. So the first idea we had for this plan is a regional low stress network. And what that's referring to is for bicycle and pedestrian, how comfortable it is to use a road. So level of stress is referring to how comfortable is it based off of how comfortable you are on a bike or walking. So areas with high levels of stress, really only bicyclists who are very comfortable on their bikes will feel safe on that roadway versus low stress can be geared towards pretty much everybody. So here on the right was a little bit of a visualization of that. This is from the city of Fort Collins, and as we can see in the label, that it is split off by lower volume speed roadways or protected bikeways versus higher volume speed roadways or bike lanes. And this can be used if you are deciding, where do I want to ride my bike? It can be used as a way to help determine that. It can also be used for communities who do not have their own low stress network to visualize where in the communities is there a need to make it a little bit more accessible if that is a desire. It's just this will be used as a resource, especially for smaller communities who do not have the staff capacity to do this like our large communities do. We have our expanded bike share and micromobility, and this is really tacking on to a lot of the new growth in micromobility. Fort Collins has their SPIN program. The city of Greeley is looking at having their own micromobility program. So this would be just expanding more information on the programs we have in the region and just more information to be used as a resource. Information on sidewalk gap construction programs. So this would be looking at each community's sidewalk gap programs, construction programs, if they have any, and compiling it in one place. So it'll be easy to see what one community does and can bounce ideas off each other, just have it in one central location. We're looking at expanding our economic benefits section, our e-bike sections, and equity section. So currently there is equity in the current plan, but it's kind of dispersed throughout the plan. So this will result in the steering committee saying that it will make sense to have it more in one location if you're looking for equity specific commentary on our active transportation network. And then we're also looking to look at the relationship between active transportation and transit, especially those first and last mile connections. So these can be things like, do we need better bike parking at transit stops? Are people more willing to use transit if there are safer bike parking there? Would they be more willing to use transit if there's easy paths to get to the station? Are there sidewalks at transit stops, things of that nature? So the steering committee identified 3 of the ideas as their main sort of our priorities for the plan. And that is the regional low stress network, the sidewalk gap construction program information, the economic benefits section. So my question is, are there any other ideas on this list that is not on this list that you would like to see in the plan? Or on said list, are there other things that we should prioritize?
Could you dig down a little deeper for me on this micro mobility? You said there was a program in Fort Collins and one in Greeley, right?
So there's not one in Greeley yet. They're in the process of developing it.
So what exactly is the program, I guess?
So in Fort Collins, micromobility that's referring to the bikes and scooters that you are able to rent through the app. If you've been in Fort Collins, you've seen the orange bikes and scooters everywhere. That's what that's referring to. Are there any other?
No.
Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yes.
Are there any other comments?
All right. Last call. Questions for Jerome?
I still have more.
Oh.
Easy chair.
We're done. We're out of here.
No.
Go ahead, Jerome.
So just as a reminder, this plan does have to be in compliance with our 2050 regional transportation plan and help advance the goals identified in that plan. And those goals are safety, regional health, mobility, multimodal operations. So another question I have is, what do you see as the largest barrier to safer and more reliable biking and walking in your community? So I've asked this question before, and we've gotten comments such as crossing I-25, US 34, those bigger roads. It can be safety things, pretty much any barrier to someone realistically wanting to walk or bike.
My county's 4,018 square miles.
A little bit of a hindrance.
Just need a bigger battery.
Yeah. Are there any comments?
Seems to me that there's not a lot of places. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of places to park a bike.
Absolutely.
You're not gonna wanna take a bike if you don't have a place to park it when you get to your destination.
Securely.
Right.
That's something that we have considered. Even if there is good bike parking, if it's not particularly safe or secure, that can also deter people from wanting to put their bike there. But that is a good point.
Was there somebody online had a comment?
Yeah, I had just a couple of short comments.
Sure, go
Thanks
ahead.
for the presentation. Thank you. So I think with barriers, I think you've got it right on the low stress networks. I think, they always figure only about 8% of people commute by bike, even in Fort Collins. So I think having the right bike infrastructure, also identifying low stress routes and really making sure that people know how to get to work or school, not on a busy street where it feels dangerous to ride your bike. So I think that those pieces are really important. And then I just wonder about availability on bikes when we talk about equity. Like, can people afford the bike and the lock and the helmet and all the things that go with that? And I know that there's some work that's been done on the city to give, rebates for e-bikes and stuff. And I think, rebates or incentives to purchase bikes or e-bikes would be really good, especially for people who would like to use that mode of transportation, but really can't afford all the things that go with that. So those are just some of my thoughts. I'm glad we're doing this, though. This is great.
I agree. So yeah, those are some good points. So kind of pointing at the rebates, things like that. That will also be part of the plan is information on rebate programs like the statewide e-bike rebate program. That will also be included in the plan. Are there any other comments?
I don't want to cut you off, Jerome. You tell me when you're done.
Next step.
There was more. You were already.
We got to keep you on your toes. So for next steps, we're going to begin scheduling those community meetings. We're still in the process of figuring out how to do that, where to do each individual community, or perhaps do some more grouping of communities who are closer together. We're still working through that process. We're going to continue to draft the survey to have it ready for our summer outreach season to get feedback from the public. We're going to begin analyzing our existing data and compiling the existing resources. So this includes looking through our local plans to make sure that the local priorities stated in those plans are represented in this plan when applicable. That includes looking at crash and count data. That will be included in the plan as well. And then continue to engage with NOCO, Bike and Ped, and other stakeholders. Are there any other questions? And this is the last slide.
All right. Last call for Jerome. I think it was very excellent.
Thank you.
Well done.
Good
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
All right. On to Alex and his TMO update, US 34.
Thank you. So I'll try to make this exciting since at least half the people here listened to me talk about this earlier. But just the NFRMPO Planning Council has set aside funding for us to create the first transportation management organization in Northern Colorado. And so I just wanted to come back and give an update about where we are in the process and what's been happening. So just as a recap of where we've been, I will give you a heads up that I went a little crazy on the stock images in this presentation. It's pretty fun.
Looks like it. I won't say it.
I was going with,
Yeah, that wasn't gonna be politically correct.
I was going with we're winning the race.
I love it. I love it.
It was positive. It was good. We've achieved things in 2023, including that the MPO applied for and received a grant from the Office of Innovative Mobility, which is providing funding for operations for the US 34 TMO. The US 34 Coalition has stepped up to be the initial board of directors for the US 34 TMO. And we released an RFP in October of last year. That closed in 2023, and we were able to hire the consultant to actually hit the ground running to develop and implement the TMO. And I just wanted to say a big thank you to the scoring committee members that were made up of Commissioner James and some staff people from CDOT and our local communities. So Steer is who we went with as our consultant. They have been doing TDM work, and they're also a national consulting firm for most types of transportation. They did work for the MPO in the region back in 2013 when they created a transit feasibility vision. So they also have experience setting up TMOs within a polycentric area like ours. We're not like Denver that has downtown Denver in the middle of the region. We have a lot of different nodes along this corridor that we're looking at that we'd like to connect into this program. And then one of the things that really stood out about SEER was their focus on building up local experience. So the first few months of developing the program will be done by the staff in Los Angeles, but the idea is they will then create the infrastructure to hire somebody local that will actually be on the ground face-to-face on the corridor. And then we did interviews, and hopefully this is okay to share, but one of the things that we really liked is that people spoke highly of the company, not just the people. Some of the other people we interviewed, they spoke really highly of specific people, but not necessarily the company. And so that was something that really stood out, is that if someone left, they still, there wasn't any issues transitioning to the next person, or if there were questions, there was this national resource that they could go and use. So those were some of the things that really stood out to us about SEER. So just showing a quick timeline of where we see 2024. The kickoff event is going to be inviting SEER to come to Northern Colorado, introduce them to the 34 Coalition, and then have them do site visits along the corridor and meet with community members and stakeholders. I mentioned that there's a TMO development phase, and then there's the implementation phase. So you see that transitions towards the September timeline. And then as this is going on in the background, we're also trying to get a better understanding of what the MPO's TDM program is and what that looks like, whether that means identifying geographies of possible new TMOs. Does the MPO need to be involved besides just funding? What exactly is our role in this entire process? So that'll be a background process going on. And that one is dependent on CDOT contracting. So we have the funding, and we hope to one day be able to use it. So some of the questions that I had for council, one of the things that's come up at the US 34 Coalition quite a bit is all of the different partners. And so using the US 34 Coalition as an example, there's the US 34 Coalition chair, the staff person to the chair, and then there's also MPO staff, there's the consultant, and then there will be the TMO staff person. And so that's a lot of different people doing different things throughout, trying to make sure that it's successful. And so we wanted to come and talk to you guys to find out more about how the council sees its role in that. Is it in terms of funding? Is it in terms of planning and making it easier for organizations to step up and apply for funding? Or is it what we're doing now, which is the incubation, coming up with this, and then the idea is we will spin this off? So I can also provide more context if that would be helpful for this question.
My opinion, Alex, would be the latter, incubation and implementation.
Okay.
As discussed in 34, I'm a big believer in that parallel yet separate thing. We are certainly here to serve as a resource for the TMO, but the sooner it stands on its own two legs, the better.
Agreed.
I see my role as applying my initials to the program.
Cutting the check.
Okay, and then the other thing that we wanted to bring to you is that the council did set aside $100,000 per year in carbon reduction program funds, or CRAP funds if you want, for each year between 2024 and 2027. And just wanted feedback. The US 34 Coalition made the recommendation that before we start trying to set up different TMOs, let's focus on making sure that the first TMO is successful and can stand on its feet. And so and then also using some of those funds for the TDM program planning that I mentioned in the last slide. So I just wanted to make sure that that vision lines up with what the Planning Council overall sees as well.
Yes, that makes sense.
Perfect. And then just wanted to share that the Office of Innovative Mobility has released a call for projects in these 4 grant programs. So there's the Zero Emission Vehicle Workforce Development Grant, Electrification, Mobility, Education, and Awareness, the Transportation Demand Management Innovation Grant, and the TMO seed funding. So the seed funding grant is what we received for the US 34 TMO, but the TDM innovation grant is something that the local communities have applied for. I believe the city of Fort Collins has applied for and received 2 of those grants so far, and that's for the actual implementation and doing things, not just so that's the programming side, not just the administrative setting up an organization side. And it's a pretty quick turnaround of March 29th, but they did say that there will be a second round of funding in the summer. So just wanted to share in case local communities might be interested in applying for funding if there's something that lines up with what you all would like to do. And I just also wanted to share that this will be transitioning from me in the planning team over to the mobility team with Brooke, as the idea is this is going more towards implementation and outside of planning. So Brooke's information is up there if anybody has any questions.
So just want to make sure I understand. When Steer comes here, are you going to be like the coordinator?
That is definitely.
Who do we go to for any questions?
So we had this hallway conversation earlier. So I think it's really MPO staff at this point that probably is going to coordinate it, at least initially in the beginning. So yeah, I think it's either Alex or Brooke, either one.
But yes, the idea is that in this development phase, the MPO will be much more involved, but to Commissioner James' point of having this be a standalone organization, we do want to make sure that we're building the infrastructure for the TMO to be able to work directly with Steer and all of that.
All right, any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate it. We'll move on to council reports. I understand Jim Kelly's not online. Is Heather online to fill in?
I'm here.
You mind backing
And
up, Jim?
can you hear me? I think you guys can hear me.
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. So from council, it's been pretty much an update. I will say one of the things that's going to be coming in front of council this month is a 1601. It is not in the North Front Range, but it would be something for the North Front Range to look into. As far as this sits between the Upper Front Range and Dr. Cog, it is I-76 and Weld County Road 8. And we will be presenting that 1601 in front of the commission in a work session in February with hopefully a vote for approval in March. Other than that, I don't have much to update from commission. I'm going to let Jim give the CDOT update, but I do want to just give a shout out to Johnstown. And, you know, our permits office is incredibly busy. I will say, though, the person giving them, or the group giving them the most amount of work is from Johnstown. They're keeping us quite busy. But I just want to, their partnership and their desire to do transportation planning right has been really fantastic. And we were dealing with a developer that was coming in that maybe wasn't considering the future of 34, and they've making some concessions and considerations for future of 34. And I just want to say that's really what we're hoping to get out of the TAC. I think Chad did a great job of sort of talking about that, but I know development's going to get there before CDOT is going to get there to do some of the improvements, and it's going to take those commitments from locals, building it into their approved development plans to make this happen. So just want to give a shout out to Johnstown and Matt LaSurf.
Great. Any questions for Heather? All right, thank you, Heather. All right, next is the stack report.
I'm going to give CDOT's updates for projects.
Oh, okay.
Okay, sorry about that. Thanks, Heather. Yeah, I haven't seen you all in a long time. There's a lot of new faces here, and a lot of you don't know me. So my name is Jim Houston. I'm the CDOT Region 4 Environmental and Planning Program Manager. And it's been a long time since we've been here, so I think we're going to be more of a face here as we move forward. I also want to introduce Josie Thomas, who's sitting in the back over there.
Is she in trouble?
She is in trouble.
Okay.
I put her
She sits in the darkest part of the room back there.
Yeah, and she would normally be giving the updates. She's the face of planning for Region 4, and so moving forward, you'll hear more from her, but tonight you get my old mug, so I've been around for a long time with CDOT, so I'm just gonna go briefly over some highlights that CDOT, what we're working on. So first I'd like to talk about 287. I don't know if this has been brought to your attention. We had a safety study conducted up there. That safety study just wound up, and it identified some treatments up along 287, including some wildlife mitigation up there along that area. That report was finished by the consultants this past month, and now it's going to go in front of commissioners from Larimer County to talk about that, and depending on what kind of comments we get back from that feedback, that study will be finalized probably within the next month or so.
What portion of 287?
Actually, the study went from State Highway 14 to the Wyoming border, but we also know that NISP is going to be in there, Northern Water. So most of the concentration was from Owl Canyon north to the Wyoming border, and that's where we really concentrated on the wildlife too, is up in that area. So you should see that final report coming out within the next month with all those recommendations. And then the other one is we also kicked off just this week a safety study on Colorado 14 from approximately County Road 5 east of I-25 to east of Alt. So, and that one's going to look at have a lot of head-ons on that one. We have a lot of broadsides on areas where you don't have sight vision. There's sightability. We're also looking at shoulders, and then other treatments too, intersection treatments and so forth on that one. That's similar to what 392 was before we looked at that too. You know, it's a very tight highway and a lot of traffic, getting a lot of collisions on that one. So that one just kicked off this week. More to come on that one. We expect that will be about another year-long project before we get a safety report done on that one. And then on the I-25, section 6, 7, and 8, segment 6, 7, and 8 are 98% completed. So tolls are still open for, you can drive them. They're not collecting tolls at this time. We expect to do that sometime after they get integrated and tested within the next few months, but that's that one winding down. There still might be some closures on those segments just because they're doing punch list items. So you should expect that too. And then on segment 5, the one that we're working, the CMG project, we still haven't heard anything on the grant, the mega grant, infra grant. So we're still waiting here on that one. I think the ask was for about $100 million on that project. And, but we're working towards 90% design on the first CP package, which is going to be doing work in the middle so we can switch the traffic when we get started on those other larger packages. And that should start probably later to earlier this spring on those packages. And other than that, that's really what's going on. Peckham, you see what's going on with Peckham out here. They're about done with that project. The main line's still not underneath or still in its final alignment. They're still using trucks to utilize those at. But the ramps, the approach ramps on both sides, the last pours will be done on that one within the next couple weeks, and the decks have all been poured. So we're in good shape on Peckham.
Interstate looks great.
They look great, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a good project. It's one of the better ones. So yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
Sorry for the confusion. I was told Jim Kelly wasn't attending.
Jim Kelly, yeah.
I did not expect another Jim.
Well, you got one tonight.
Okay, all right. Thank you for the report.
Thank you, guys.
I really enjoyed it. All right, so let's back up a little bit. The stack report, that's on page 64 of the packet. CTIO office is page 66 of the packet. I-25 Coalition, Commissioner James.
This is one of those weird months where the first Wednesday falls after the first Thursday, and so this month I have no reports.
All right, thank you very much. US 34, that's to be determined. I think we covered that, right? And then NAPNE, Commissioner Stevens.
Yeah, thank you. So we met on January 25th for NAPME. I think the biggest thing that we got done was we adopted the final proposed eligibility criteria. That was largely dictated by state statute, but we did adopt that, and that it's pretty pretty standard, but if a community is eligible for CMAQ dollars, then they would likely be eligible. Then they would be eligible for these dollars as well, the NAPME dollars. We also approved the final general evaluation criteria, and I'll just list a few of the kind of major criteria. That way, communities can start thinking about how they might meet that criteria, because hopefully we will be getting some of these dollars out the door this year. So some of that criteria includes reported amount of emission benefit reduction. So, you will have to demonstrate that you would be reducing emissions. And then provide documented outreach to engage with disproportionately impacted communities. So not only are we asking people to consider those communities, we're wanting folks to actually document that they visited with those communities to do that work. If a project is located or supports transportation needs within a disproportionately impacted community, does the project improve the safety of the traveling public or has elements of safety improvements? Does the community make a commitment for long-term maintenance of those infrastructure projects? Demonstrated likelihood of successful project delivery, expands or improves transportation choices as opposed to increasing single occupancy vehicles, obviously quality of the application. And then if the project is a part or a portion of something prioritized in an NPO planning region or the CDOT 10-year plan. So those are be the criteria that we're going to be looking at when evaluating applications for the NAPME dollars. And so our next meetings will be looking at the initial funding programs and how to get those out. So we are making progress. Thank you.
Super, thank you. Any questions for Commissioner Stevens?
Yeah, if I could, I'm curious with the parameters that you lined out, Commissioner, would NAPME potentially fund sidewalk projects?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, thank you.
That's one of the projects that we've talked about is pedestrian and bike infrastructure is something we've talked about.
Okay, good to know.
All right, anything further? Got a hand raised?
I think Johnny's on.
Johnny, you waiting for real?
I'm ready. Are you ready for me?
All right. This is where we crank you up. Go for it.
Cranking me up. So our board meeting's the last Friday of the month. The first thing we discussed is we went over pretty clearly the executive director's or general manager's roles and his plan for the year and what we're expecting with a pretty good write-up. You can see that online. We are going to start holding in-person workshops the third Thursday of the month to try to get through some of the discussion items instead of holding them at our 2-hour meeting, their board meeting. If we need to make votes, we'll do it during our board meeting. It's going to be at 1 to 3, third Thursday of the month. If you want to come, it's going to be in person in Denver somewhere. So I just added another meeting to my calendar. Talked a little bit about a planning of the 9 primary markets and stations that are going to be in, the NEPA process that will have to come with this SDP. There's going to be a lot of communication that's going to be needed and where that's going to be. The financial committee talked about Ernst & Young starting their model, a robust model. They're going to hopefully present something to us with what's in the model and the assumptions that are made in the model next month. And then a lot of discussion around the ballot initiative and what some of the concerns and what we got to do to get to the 24. Polling's going to be starting. The model started. So we should have some more information every month of where we're at in the program. Oh, and the last thing is we talked about board appointments. The board appointments will be next month. So there's a lot of behind the scenes vying for the chair, the vice chair, secretary. That's my report.
Thank you, Johnny. Any questions for Johnny? Mayor Karsbeck is not online. Nope. Okay. All right. Last but not least, Paula, tell us what's going on in LaSalle. And again, thank you for the food. Appreciate
You
it.
are very welcome. Thank you for joining me down here. The biggest thing that we've got going right now is we got the award from CDOT for our Main Street Bridge over the Union Ditch. We signed the contract for Mountain Constructors, and so they will be starting, hopefully if the weather can hold, we will have a new bridge by summer. So that is the plan. We are also looking at doing some little town upgrades. One of the things is we are in negotiation with some people to put together a skate park in town. So other than that, it's been pretty quiet.
Super, thank you. Any questions for Paul? Hearing none, here's the best part of the whole meeting. Oh, no.
No. Nearly 40 minutes early.
I know.
Nearly.
This will take 30 seconds. But there has been a lot of chat online that answers some questions from earlier questions. If you all want to take a look at what's online on the chat.
Are they directed at?
They were from Dina, mostly about some of the legislation that Mr. Stevens was asking about where the money was coming from. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody before we said go.
Unless you was pointing us to our hate mail that's coming.
So we lose that once we turn on, right? Only a chance to look at it.
No, we do still have it.
Okay, all right.
Can you send it to us? Because my glasses aren't really that fantastic to read it from here in great length. But if you could send it to me where I could make it much larger.
All right, thank you. All right.
7:16.